How's it going?
Well, it's going pretty good. Just working. I write for VH1, so I'm finishing up an article right as we speak.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, doing an article on kind of like, I mean, I title it, say, where are they now? New bands from established metal musicians. Basically talking about, like bands will break up or guys will quit and they'll do like new things, and people, a lot of fans out there they're not keeping up with the news, about what guys are doing. And there's always like cool new projects, and a lot of people just don't get a chance to hear about them, so.
Yeah, that's definitely a cool idea.
Well, I have to come up with something to write about every week, so no idea is a bad idea.
That's very true. So how did that come about, being able to work with VH1?
I was already writing on my own. I started writing for metalsucks.net, just doing like op-ed pieces every now and again, just really as a hobby for fun, like not without really any provocation from them. But it was something that, I enjoyed doing and seemed to get like a good reaction. And then I started doing an NBA basketball column for them. I did that for a couple years. And then I kind of got tired doing that, and I decided I wanted to start my own website and kind of start writing about just anything, like beyond just music or basketball. And then so I started .co.net, started writing on there. Then basically I was doing this like maybe like 5 or 6 years on my own for fun and as a hobby. And then a friend of mine who works for Viacom basically found out that they were looking for someone to be their modern metal columnist. She recommended to this guy, Ben Smith. He hit me up and he really liked my work, and kind of the rest is history. So this is going back to like February. So yes, I've been doing it for going on a half a year right now.
Oh, very cool. I've been a huge fan of your articles all the way back through the Metal Sucks years, and it's great to be able to see such high praise from VH1. I mean, you've been getting a lot of recognition, both good and a lot of different opinions as well on your articles, but it's good to be able to see such a reaction that you're getting from people.
Well, I think that's, in a way, it's not that I try and write sensationalized stuff, but I think it's always more interesting when you have a different take than the kind of conventional wisdom or the general view of a lot of, because I'm writing about metal, and a lot of the time, the people that are involved in like the internet side of things, or the internet metal nerds, they tend to kind of walk in step with each other in terms of a lot of these opinions. So it's like, it wouldn't be too interesting to write about things where you're basically agreeing with people. So I almost look at the things where I notice I tend to have a different viewpoint than a lot of people, and then I'll say, all right, let me write about that, not because I'm trying to troll people or get other people to see it, but more because that's where it's interesting. The disagreement is much more interesting than a bunch of people patting each other on the back,
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, it's definitely a thing in metal. It's like there is this like a constant mindset in metal, and if anyone has a different opinion, then they get really hurt about it, and they feel anger about how they feel about metal if it's anything different than what they believe.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably one of the really cool things about writing this long as opposed to, I imagine if I was a writer, back in the 50s or something, where you really don't have that immediate feedback, and there's not, outside of, I'm sure back in the day, they used to, people would literally write letters to like a newspaper or magazine, but now there's that immediate pushback, and in a way it's kind of made me immune. Like, I think back in the day I would kind of take things personally, or it would and that's actually how I started. The first article I ever wrote is called A Response to Criticism. It was basically about the idea of criticism, and now it's like, it doesn't, it's almost like I get enjoyment out of it when I see people writing hateful things. Because I just think, Nothing I ever release from a writing standpoint is not after thinking about it a lot. And that's not to say that I'm 100% right on everything I say, but at least I know that everything I put down to print, there's a thought process behind it. And it's not just like inflammatorily throwing out statements just to kind of rile people up. So I'm always willing, whether it's in a comment section, to actually continue the debate. And then maybe I missed a band, and people are like, oh, you should check out this band, or you're an idiot, you don't know anything, here's what's, you should this band. And I'm like, I just kind of brush off the whole them talking shit about me, and it's like, all right, I'll check out the band. Like, I get it. They're just, whatever. I just, at least my position, without being able to explain myself, is either facts, or at least my position, without being able to explain myself, is either I've been lucky enough to be given a platform that gives me the appearance of being an authority. But I certainly don't believe that I am.
Well, it's great to be able to see perspective from someone who has been in the business as long as you have, someone that's been on the road, involved with so much with metal, being able to show their experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another element to the writing that probably gives me a different, not only a different view, but also I'm gonna write about things in a certain way that just outside people who are not involved in the industry are going to. There's just certain things I know about the processes of whether that's writing an album or recording an album or going on tour, or dealing with record labels, and that's just, and I make it a point to talk about those things when I write, because to me there's no point in just kind of writing a generic article. Like, if I have to inject my personality, my biography into it, because that's going to make it more unique,
Oh, absolutely, because I mean, you can go anywhere to read like metal articles, but people will keep coming back to a certain writer if they have some kind of charisma behind it or something that makes them want to keep coming back week after week.
That's fine. I just go with my instincts, despite, like I said, thinking a lot about what I write about, I don't question my own motives too much. I kind of just go, with what feels right. And then, at the end of the day, it's like if my editors like what I write, I guess as long as it's getting the traffic that they find is okay. And generally, I'm lucky enough that I do get quite a bit of feedback on a regular basis from friends and people within the industry and just fans who, maybe they like a particular article or sometimes they'll just message me and almost want to continue the discussion or tell about how a particular article connected to them or relates to their life story or whatever. And I appreciate that people actually do take it to heart, and it does have a personal effect beyond just talking about metal. Because I do talk about, the life of being a musician and the difficulties that can come with that, and try and be as honest about that as possible.
Oh, very much so. And I'm glad to see that you are putting that effort through as well. One of the reasons that I'm talking to you today is you're actually a part of a brand new site called metalforhire.com. How did that all come about?
I mean, pretty much I was just approached by my guy over there, Devin, and he hit me up. They said they're looking to do this site to serve as a conduit to, help musicians kind of get more work in a freelance capacity, whatever that meant, with me personally, giving guitar lessons or doing recording work or songwriting work or even coaching for the industry, consulting, things like that. But also as a platform for fans who also happen to be musicians and want to have access to professionals and people that they respect. So it's I think there have been attempts to do things like this, but this is definitely the first time I've involved something in this exact platform. So it's I'll be interested to see how it kind of moves forward. But I've been in spite of having the platform, these are things I've been doing on my own, for years. So it's really just another way to kind of find more work, really, which is what it's about. Especially if you're trying to be a musician and make a living as an artist and a performer. You have to really follow any path you can, and look at all opportunities.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, that is the sad state of music right now. I mean, it's entirely possible that things could change, but being able to find any way to be able to support yourself making the music that you want to make, or just like in music in general, I mean, that's why it's great. Like, you were talking about how you're doing all of this before, and then just like Metal for Hire being just another platform to show off what you're already doing, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all people who are on the professional side of things. We're all at different levels. You know, some people are in a full-time band, and that's what they do every day, and they might not have time to give lessons or perhaps work with other bands or anything like that, and so they're focused on that. But then there's some people who that's all they're sure, and they're involved on that side of things, and there's everyone in between, you know. So I've always definitely outside, especially when God forbid was fully active, I was always trying to fill in those slow times when the band wasn't that busy, and you don't have the money from the road coming in. You're trying to figure out different ways to survive, So, and even now, after now that I'm out of God forbid, I'm doing, like I said, doing things like writing and other kind of random things to survive, and trying to not kind of fall into just a regular 9-to-5 type of job. I'm trying to stay fluid because I want to be able to have options, and flexibility to just do different creative endeavors.
Yeah, I mean, I really do hope that keeps working out. I mean, with VH1, Metal for Hire, and then all the other stuff you're doing outside of that, I mean, it does seem like things are going relatively good so far.
Well, I'm alive. I ate today. I got a bunch of guitars. The sun is shining. I moved to California about a year ago from New Jersey. So it's definitely been a process. It's been a big experiment, but I don't have any definitive kind of like, all right, I need to be doing this by this date or anything. But I'm just kind of trying things out and see where I end up. But we'll see. I have a few projects I'm working on. I have a new rock band called Vegas Nerve that we're getting ready to launch a Kickstarter. So actually tonight I have to film some stuff for the video, for the promotional video for that. So that's kind of like the main thing I'm doing. I have this all-star cover band called Rebel Noise Group. I play with a famous female drummer named Meytal Cohen in her band. So we have we're shooting a video next week. So I try and stay as busy as possible. A lot of right now, I think what people are seeing from me is the writing stuff, but I'm definitely doing a lot of music as well. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear that as well, because I've been a huge fan of yours since Gone Forever, and we actually did meet up a few years ago in St. Paul, Minnesota, when you guys did your last run at Station 4. We did an interview, and after the show, I actually brought it with me for this interview. I'm actually holding on to the guitar pick that you threw to me after the set, just because of this interview. Man. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great to see that you are still keeping busy with playing as well, instead of just doing the writing, and it's good to see that you're still doing what I know you best for, playing guitar.
Well, you'd be amazed how many people, leave these bands that they're doing for a long time, and they just hang it up, and they become disillusioned with just music as a whole. So, I described it because, when I left God forbid, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. I wasn't sure whether I was just going to get a regular job or try and join another band or what. I was really kind of playing it by ear, or really figuring out what my instincts were telling me to do. And I definitely felt a compulsion to keep playing. And, I know, I say this, and this definitely is not my original thought, but I think it kind of repeating something I've heard before, just about art in general, for those that continue to do it into their later ages, despite whether they're making money at it, it's like it's a thing you just need to do. It's not really a choice, So the people that do kind of move on and go to other things, they're just, they're wired a little differently. than the people that really just need to do it. You know, in a sense, you could say it's kind of a sickness, but, you know, I think those people that you kind of see break through even later in life, you know, because people can see that the passion is 100% authentic. You know, they're not doing it for money. They're not, there's no ulterior motives besides that's what they want to do. That's how they want to live, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely the great thing about being a musician is being able to show your voice. And I think that's why people continue to do it throughout their lives is they want to be able to keep showing their voice. You know, some people do it through writing. Some people do it through painting or something. Some people need to do it through creating music. And it's sad when people look at it from a financial way that they lose interest in being able to show that voice rather than just, you know, doing it from the heart and keep going that way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of bands out there who are successful that I'm pretty sure certain people know in those bands, it's just a job. You know, the passion is not what it once was. You know, when they were younger and the band was in earlier stages. And listen, I don't begrudge those people. I get it. It's like you change. You know, you get older. Your likes and dislikes, your passions. You know, some guys, when they're 20 years old, their favorite thing is their guitar. And when they're 35, they all want to just go fishing, or maybe they have children and they want to spend time with them or whatever. I can't really, I definitely don't think it's a good position to cast, you know, any severe judgment on just what people want to do. I think whatever you want to do, where it is, you know.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. I mean, whatever your passion is in life, as long as you're still able to do it, whether it's a new passion that comes later in life or it's a lifelong passion, just be able to keep doing it.
Of course.
So going back to Metal for Hire a little bit, I know it's a recent startup, but have you had any contacts with anyone that wanted to work with you yet?
So far, no. But it is very, very new. So to be honest, I've been so busy with so many other things that I haven't been super on promoting it personally. So I'll definitely, I think coming up now that I have a little more free time, because I was doing a bunch of traveling, and I was moving and stuff, so wasn't really able to really dedicate a lot of time to it. So, but coming up, especially now, actually, I do have a little more free time and would like to get involved with some more kind of freelance projects and take on some more guitar students, things like that. I'll definitely be more involved and vocal about it coming up.
Oh, very cool. What's the one thing that you really hope to be able to accomplish with Metal for Hire?
Listen, man, I'm not one of these people that I'm not a workaholic. But I definitely think there is something to be said for, when you are, I'll give you an example. I worked for School of Rock for a year teaching guitar. And I've taught guitar privately for a long time, but I never had maybe more than 4 or 5 students at a time. It was never a full-time thing. It was always just kind of something I would do in my spare time. But just that, the idea of when I actually got to teach full-time, it puts you in a headspace of music all the time. And that just, and that made me such a better musician, just being there, working constantly, and I think that's, the benefit, the more involved I am, the more projects I'm working on, the more students I'm taking on, just that elevates my craft to a whole different level, especially when it's consistent, and so it's not about just being busy just to be busy, but when you're working, all the time in your area of expertise, you're just, it becomes streamlined, you just become that much better. And that's an amazing thing, I think. I'll be 35 this year, and how much I've improved as a musician just in the last 5 or 6 years is pretty amazing. There's definitely things now that I can do that were a huge struggle early on. So that's a really cool idea, just to know that you can keep growing as a musician, and the more work you do, the better you get, and you're just involved. That's what I like. I just like being involved. Whether that's helping artists, new bands, new players, or whether it's through writing, it's just being involved in like this music scene. You know, it's still very important too.
It's so very true. I'm glad to see that you have that kind of mindset as well. Getting back into more of the projects that you're doing, is there any chance of any of it being able to tour, or is it just going to be a studio only, or just in LA, or how's any of that going about?
Well, you know, each thing is kind of in its own area of development, which I would say is probably the three things I mentioned are probably early development. Like, so with Meytal Cohen, we're supposed to do shows out in New York and Boston in March, and they were postponed. But we played out here in LA and did some other shows in the area. But really, that's basically I'm playing in someone else's band, so I have very little to do with the organization and the planning. So I think that project has some potential, and we'll definitely be doing some things. As far as my original band, Vegas Nerve, that right now half the band still lives on the East Coast, and the bass player and myself live in California. So it's not really logistically set up to do to do performances currently, but I'm not really worried about that. I really just want to get the EP done, get the Kickstarter going, and we'll kind of take it one step at a time. You know, there's some talks about some of the other guys moving out to California, and I'm definitely making it a lot more plausible to make it a regular gigging band, but I'm not really looking that far down the line. And with the cover band, Rebel Noise Group, it really needs to be built regionally first before we kind of get it to that level. And it's still very, very early in the process, but I'm constantly kind of keeping my ears open for hired gigs, you know, touring. I toured, the last tour I did was with On Earth. It was at the end of 2013, so I haven't been on the road in a while. So I'm definitely itching to get out there and looking for opportunities that make sense. Because I definitely want to be on the road. I was someone that really, really enjoyed it, especially when it was set up properly. Because when you do touring where it's not, the planning isn't good, and the infrastructure is poorly put together, then it can make touring really rough. But if everything is taken care of and you're then it can be really awesome. If the shows are good, the band is good, it's definitely a place I feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's definitely the important thing when it comes to touring, is being able to be in a good headspace and environment while touring, making sure the logistics and everything's fine, everything besides being on the stage is taken care of, and then you can go on stage and be able to have a great time as well.
Yeah. I mean, when I was younger, as long as I'm on the road, I was happy. But you get a little older, you kind of realize there's certain things definitely need to be in place for it to make sense. I'm at least at the point where I don't want to go on tour just to go on tour. It has to be a suitable situation.
Yeah, and that's definitely the way it should be too, because otherwise you might not want to ever tour again if you start getting into that process of touring just for touring, and then everything just starts to fall apart from there. So I mean, you got to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, well, I think it's perfectly fine early on if you've never been on the road. It's an experience that a lot of musicians just that makes sense. Where it's like, all right, let me just get on the road so I can just know what it's like to be on tour, and that I have no problem with touring just to tour, to gain that experience. But there's definitely, if you continue to do that, there's definitely a point of diminishing returns, where you do have to become more selective, and there's a lot of costs that go into touring, that can definitely make it detrimental to your career and your kind of health if done poorly.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you put that way better than I could have. I mean, especially with how many tours that you've been a part of and all the bands that you've played with on stage. I mean, that's definitely a great way to look at it when you've had that much experience.
I have. That's what I was saying. I've done the biggest tours basically a metal musician can do. You know, I've done Ozfest. I've toured with Metallica. I've played the European festivals. You know, so there's really no thing I have to prove from that standpoint to myself or kind of level I have to breach. You know, definitely in terms of career-wise, like I have never been in a band that's made it to maybe like that really big headliner status. So that's definitely a place I would like to get to as far as my own band or joining a band of that stature. But in terms of just kind of needing that rush or like, oh, I just need to accomplish this one thing, I've kind of already done all that stuff. So that's definitely not the primary motivator.
Yeah, I mean, when you've done it as long as you have, I mean, it's got to be something that you want to do and for it to make sense. I'm glad to see that you are looking at it that way. So just to wrap things up here, I know you got to get back to writing your articles. Is there anything else that you would like to bring up that I haven't brought up yet?
I mean, not in particular. I mean, like I said, I just have this. I'd say people if anyone's interested in my writing or musical stuff, my Instagram and Twitter are both at .coyle, my name. Same thing with Facebook, .coyle. You just put that in. I'm pretty much the only guy with that name, so I'm pretty easy to find. My new band, Vegas Nerve, will be launching Kickstarter pretty soon, and we're going to be introducing a new song. That actually it'll be the first song that anyone's heard from this band. So people just keep an eye out for that. It's not anywhere near as heavy as God forbid. It's definitely a whole different animal, but I think it's definitely in the realm of kind of like, not that it sounds like Tool or it sounds like Deftones, but it's a band like that that's not completely a metal band but metal fans I think will enjoy. Oh,
that definitely sounds like it'll be up my alley as well. I'll definitely be looking forward to that when you send that out.
Right on. Well, I got your number, so I can hit you up and definitely let you know when we launch that when the song comes out.
Awesome. Definitely looking forward to it. Thanks again for taking the time to do this interview. It's great to be able to catch up again. And
of course.
And just in case you ever get on the right tour and you head back to Minnesota, I'll definitely be at the show.
Awesome, Josh. I really, really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, not a problem. Likewise. Have yourself a great rest of the night.
Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.